Kelly Enos?
Ennis, aye.
Ennis, sorry. I do that every time.
Sorry.
Ms. Ra?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
Mr. Sharma?
Aye.
And Mr. Yusufero?
Aye.
Excellent. Very good. And as we start this procedure, I will ask Marta if there are any changes to the tentative agenda. I believe we have one item on the agenda.
No, there are no changes to the agenda, Cecily. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the December 8th meeting minutes. On January 6th, in that email, you received draft minutes for that meeting on December 8th. Has everyone on the panel had an opportunity to review the draft minutes? And if there are any corrections or additions to the minutes, please let us know. Hearing none, if who would like to make a motion to accept the minutes as circulated?
This is Kelly. I'll make a motion. Sorry.
Go ahead, Kelly. Sorry.
Thank you,
Kelly. I'll
Kelly.
make a motion to accept the minutes as stated.
Thank you. And can I have a second?
This is Joe Yusufero. I'll second Ms. Ennis's motion.
Very good. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries. So now I'll read an opening statement, and those of you who have heard this many a time, bear with me, but I will read it into record. So Title 4, Subtitle 2, Part 1, Sections 32-4-203 and 32-4-204 establish the Design Review Panel. The DRP was established to encourage design excellence and shall act in a consulting and advisory capacity to the agencies involved in the process for reviewing development plans. The objective for DRP's assessment includes spatial, visual, and functional relationships to the topographical characteristics, the natural and built features of the site, as well as the surrounding features of the site. Visual and functional integration of streetscapes, pedestrian pathways, playgrounds, recreational amenities, and parks. Streets and sidewalks are laid out in a safe and convenient manner, and parking is a positive design element. Building, parking garages, and other structures are spatially and visually integrated and suitable to their surroundings in proportion, massing, and type of materials and colors, signage, and other elements of urban design. And plant materials are selected and cited to define the site, provide a theme, frame a view, enhance architecture and street character, improve the microclimate, provide transition between dissimilar uses, screen objectionable views and uses, and reduce noise levels and glare. In carrying out its duties, the DRP utilizes the guidelines, plans, and architectural principles in the Comprehensive Manual of Development Policies and/or Master Plan, as well as other guidelines and regulations adopted into law. Certain areas of the county were designated by the County Council to require review by the DRP. The panel will provide a technical review of the proposed project. Issues relative to zoning, setback relief, environmental and stormwater management, and traffic regulations do not fall under the purview of the DRP and are regulated through the appropriate agencies responsible for those aspects of the development plan review process. The panel consists of 9 members. All are professionals with practical knowledge in the matters of design. For the purposes of making recommendations on a particular project, 3 members shall constitute a quorum. The attendance and comments of each member shall be recorded in the minutes, which shall be an open record and available along with all documents submitted to the panel for inspection and copying by the public. There will be an opportunity for the community to offer comments and suggestions at the conclusion of the applicant's presentation. These comments will also be included in the written record of the meeting. When a speaker is called up to speak, please keep your comments focused on design perspectives within your allotted 2 minutes time. However, if you're speaking on behalf of a community group, you will have 5 minutes. At the conclusion of the meeting, the Department of Planning will sum up the recommendations of the panel before a motion for vote is suggested. Recent legislation has changed the panel's recommendations to be advisory on the hearing officer and various county agencies, unless the hearing officer or agencies find that the panel's actions constitute an abuse of its discretion or are unsupported by the documentation and evidence presented. Disposition of the plan will be determined as either approved, approved with conditions, or additional review with a second meeting required. So thank you for bearing with that. And now we will move on to the first item on the agenda, the only item on the agenda, which is 501 Fairmont Avenue within the downtown Towson. And this is for a commercial sign review. So with that, we will move to the first item, and presenter, please present your project. The floor is yours.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? All right, I'm Jacob Moore. I'm the project manager with Strickler Signs. In attendance with me is Christopher Holt and Patrick Ward. They're going to represent Horsetown Bank. We're seeking approval for one wall sign on the northern exterior facade. This first page you see on the screen is showing an aerial where I've circled it, the building, and to the right of that is the zoning map where it's zoned BM. Marta, if you could go to the next slide, please. This is the proposed sign where it's 87 square feet, and it's also showing the placement on the facade. Marta, if you could go down to the next page as well. Here we're showing it imposed on a Google Earth view. This is to give an idea of how the sign will fit into the neighborhood. There's another one. There's one more yet. All right, and then here we're showing the sign illuminated at night. You'll see that in the upper left corner. The sign is constructed of what we call facelit channel letters. So the lettering itself has internal LEDs in it, and they shine through the acrylic faces. That's just the lettering. The background is an aluminum raceway that contains all the wiring and electrical components out of sight. On the right side is the spec sheet from the manufacturer of the LEDs. And then down at the bottom left is the layout of the LEDs. That's just to show again that the background is not illuminated. The LEDs are only within the letters and the stripes. Marta, if you could go down again. These are the materials and colors being used, being proposed, I should say. The black is on the sides of the letters. This is an aluminum. And then on the front of the letters, as I said earlier, is an acrylic white. And then there's a translucent vinyl, orange vinyl applied on the stripes. And then the background, the raceway is painted the Horsetown green to match their branding. If you could go down to another page, you'll see an example of the same sign we've done up in Pennsylvania. This is the typical Horsetown wall signage. And that's everything I have prepared. I can answer any questions regarding the sign itself or any questions for the bank as well.
Very good. Thank you, Jacob. That concludes the presentation. Anyone else for Horsetown wish to speak at this time? Just to check in. Okay, not hearing anyone. Marta, are there any speakers from the public for this project who would wish to speak?
No, we don't have any speakers who wish to speak tonight.
Okay, Marta, I know the staff report is brief, but would you please read that into record?
Sure. Our recommendation, our staff report, as usually prepared based on downtown Towson overlay guidelines. and by section 32-4-203A2V and section 32-4-204F of the Baltimore County Code. So our recommendations in regards to sign are the following stuff. The first, the sign approval to DRP and request that the following be taken into consideration by DRP. There are currently 5 businesses that occupy the building, including the Horsetown Bank. There is one existing sign on the 501 Fairmount Avenue building's north facade, located at the 3rd floor level for the Benefit Mall business. The permit for that sign was issued prior to establishment of their peer review area. The applicant proposes the Horsetown Bank sign be located at the 4th floor level. Given that DTD do not state any specifics regarding limiting the number of signs per facade, the Department of Planning provides the recommendations based on the underlying zoning, which is BM and BCZR section 450. A single enterprise wall-mounted sign may not be more than 150 square feet, and only 3 enterprise signs be allowed per premises, and there are no more than 2 on each facade of a building are allowed. And this concludes our staff report.
Thank you, Marta. I appreciate that. So now we'll move on to discussion of the DRP panel. I'll call folks out in order to weigh in on this. Ms. Ennis?
Thank you. I just have 2 comments, or possibly 3. It looks like it does meet the requirement for being less than 100 square feet if there's 2 signs on the same facade of the building. I'm curious if the applicant can speak to the light levels that are in the rendering on page 7, how it's illuminated at night. It looks particularly bright in the rendering, and just want to make sure that it complies with the current lighting codes. And then the last question is more of is there a black or a dark gray in the color palette of the Horsetown Bank style guide that might complement the building and maybe align with the design of the other sign that has a darker background? Just a thought. I'll go on mute.
So Jacob or representatives from Horsetown, if you'd like to address Kelly's questions.
This is Chris Holt, the Horsetown Bank. I can't comment on, Jacob, if you can give some color regarding or detail regarding the illumination. I can comment on the color scheme. Is it black or gray? Color scheme is green and orange.
Mr. Holt, it's a bit hard to hear you. Jacob, if maybe you can pick it up from there, or Mr. Holt, if you can move closer to the mic.
Yeah, Mr. Holt was addressing the color scheme. I couldn't quite hear what he was saying, but like I showed in the example, that is their typical green background. It's how their customers identify them. I'd have to get with, I guess, their marketing department to see if a darker color could be entertained or not. And as far as the lighting is concerned, we've done studies in the past for many different types of signs, and what we've gathered is that if you were to stand on the sidewalk and hold a light meter up to that sign, it wouldn't read anything. It wouldn't be any brighter than the street lamps. It would be washed out.
So it's a condition of the rendering.
the rendering is showing it as a pretty bright white, and they are white LEDs, but what I'm trying to say is from the sidewalk or for pedestrian view, you wouldn't be able to pick up any light with a light meter.
Okay.
Thank you, Kelly. We'll move on to Ms. Raw.
Good evening. The only question I had was about the lighting at night, so that was answered, and I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds?
I didn't have any additional comments, Cecily. Thanks.
Very good. Mr. Sharma?
Just wondering that the structural integrity, how the sign would be anchored to the wall, and if there's any certification or any PE engineer to stamp the plan and certify if it's secure enough to withstand any wind turbulence or any other issues.
Yeah, so our signs are designed to withstand over 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts. As it is right now, Baltimore County does not require stamped engineers for these wall signs, but if it's something that the panel is requesting, we can certainly get an engineer to review it and stamp it.
Thank you. As far as the intensity lumens output, that can be regulated to satisfy the lumens requirement of the sign.
Sorry, Mr. Sharma, are you asking if they've met lumens requirements? I don't know that there would be for the signs.
So I'm making comment in terms of the intensity of the light output of the sign. And if the rendering is accurate, they should be able to tone down the intensity, regulate the light output of the sign.
Okay. Let's see, Mr. Yusufero.
Hi, good evening. Just, I'm not a signage expert, and I think this question is more to Jacob. In this situation, you have an existing sign on a building that appears to be non-illuminated, and above it is you're proposing an illuminated sign. Just curious for that application, do you run into this often, and will this look out of place, one illuminated, one non-illuminated, or generally would you design it to conform to the building, the surroundings, and from your professional opinion?
Tough to answer. We certainly have, in many instances, put illuminated signs and non-illuminated signs together. Truthfully, I'm not sure if the benefit mall sign illuminates or not. It has the characteristics to illuminate. It's certainly a deep enough sign. Perhaps Patrick from Horsetown could confirm whether or not that sign illuminates.
Honestly, I cannot answer that question. I have not actually been there at night to see it.
Yeah, neither have I, but it does have the characteristics to illuminate. From the side of it, our sign would be no deeper than that sign.
Okay, got it. Thank you. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Yusufero. This is Cecily. I guess my one question would be, is the sign, it looks like the sign was designed to fit within the, I'll call it eave detail of the building facade. It has a drop down, I'm guessing that's EFIS. And is your sign centered within within that bay.
Yeah, that's how we're proposing it, centered left to right within that, and then top to bottom within that space as well.
And then what is the clearance over the windows? I think you had another drawing that might have shown that.
I don't think I have it called out. It would be a matter of inches.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, one thing I think part of the downtown Towson guidelines require or suggest that that the signs be of a pedestrian scale, that they do fit within the building's, architecture. I think you have accomplished that. I do feel, however, that this is a very auto-centric street, and the positioning of this, especially relative to the other sign, is appropriate for the Fairmount is what, 5 lanes across at this juncture, I think, or this point of the street. So I do feel like that's probably an appropriate approach to put the signage there. And as we can see, the trees, they're not encroaching upon that corner. There's a little bit more visibility, and they might come up to the 3rd floor level. So I do understand about putting them above the 3rd and 4th level. So that all seems to me appropriate given the location. I am not a big fan of backlit channel letters, but I do think the fact that the background is dark green and that it disappears at night with the white being the only visible element also seems appropriate. So those are all of my comments. If there are no further comments from the panel, I just wanted to go back to Mr. Sharma's comment. Mr. Sharma, do you feel like you have the information that you need based on your comment about the light levels? I didn't know if you were asking, would they reduce the light, or just if they could? So I just wanted to return to that before we move forward.
So while I don't know the standard what light output should be, but if it's too high, the LED in the sign itself, they should be able to reduce the light output. There should be a capability to reduce the light output.
Would that be correct, Jacob?
It would be adjustable. It could be dimmed, but again, in terms of lumens, it would all depend on how close to the sign you're standing when you measure the light output. And from street level, you wouldn't pick up that sign.
I'm just sorry. I did have one other question that I would have recalled. You showed an example of a similar sign in Pennsylvania, I believe you said. Is that comparable in size to the sign that you're proposing for this building in Towson?
I believe it's smaller, but the same aspect ratio. I could get the dimensions of it.
That's okay. I see that it's fitting within. Okay, if there are no other further comments from the panel, I'd like to ask if there's a motion from the panel. Sorry.
I'm very sorry for interrupting. We have
No,
Matt and Julie here also. Matt,
thank you. Sorry, I didn't know that Julie had joined. And sorry, Matt, if I thought I called Matt and he didn't have comments, but Julie, sorry, if you do have comments, or Matt, if you have additional, please let me know.
I don't have any additional comments. I think everybody covered everything.
Thank you, Ms. Sauce. And then Matt, did you have anything further?
Nope, I had no comments. Thanks for checking in.
Excellent. Okay. So with that, we will move to, I'll ask if there's anyone on the panel who would like to make a motion, and just recall that it's approve with conditions, or require a second meeting.
This is Joseph Usafero. I'd be happy to make a motion. And I think I heard one comment from Mr. Sharma about requiring a a licensed engineer to stamp the sign plan as it relates to structural integrity. So I think so long as the board's on the same page, I'm going to make that part of the motion. So for the Department of Planning staff, I'd like to make a motion to approve the sign as presented with a condition that the applicant submits a stamped professional engineer signage plan as it relates to the structural integrity of the sign.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there another panel member who would like to second?
This is Hyunra. I would like to second the motion.
Very good. Now we'll call all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. I think I heard everyone weigh in on that. Any nays that I missed? Anyone? Okay, very good. And with that, the motion carries. And at this point, thank you, presenters. And I would like to ask again, my panel members, if there's a motion to adjourn this meeting. This is an easy one. Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
This is Joseph Yusufero. I'd be happy to make a motion to adjourn the meeting this evening. This was a short one.
Yes, it was. Definitely on record as one of our shortest. And do I have a second?
I'll
This is
second the
Julie.
motion. Oh, great.
And Cecily, this is Marta. Sorry.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify, the applicant does not need to come for another review.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Do you need anything further restated on that before we?
No, that's fine.
Excellent. Okay, so I did hear a second from Ms. Raw, although I think it was a close tie. So with that, this session of the DRP is concluded. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks, everybody.
everyone.